In the early 80s, Airbus was the underdog fighting to survive in a world ruled by Boeing's 737. But with one bold, radical aircraft, Airbus took a leap of faith, introducing technology no one had dared to use in commercial aviation before. This wasn't just a new plane. This was the jet that saved Airbus and changed the course of aviation history forever. The early 80s were a turning point for aviation. Passenger numbers were climbing steadily and airlines were adding flights to meet demand. But in the world of short and medium-haul jets, there was really only one ruler: Boeing.
They began to see the need for a new generation single aisle, basically centered around 150 seats.
Its 737 had become the go-to aircraft for airlines across the globe. The 737 was trusted, proven, and familiar to pilots and mechanics alike. With each year, Boeing's grip on the narrow-body market grew tighter. Meanwhile, in Europe, Airbus was still a young company struggling to find its footing. Formed just a decade earlier, Airbus was a joint effort between France, Germany, and a few other European countries. Their first big product, the wide-body A300, had some success, but not enough to put serious pressure on Boeing. Airlines liked the A300, but it wasn't selling in the kind of numbers that could secure Airbus's future. To make matters worse, Airbus faced more than just corporate survival. The stakes were much bigger than balance sheets. Thousands of factory workers in places like Tollhouse, France, and Hamburg, Germany were counting on Airbus for their livelihoods. European governments had sunk huge amounts of money into Airbus, hoping the company could one day stand toe-to-toe with America's aerospace giants. If Airbus failed, it wouldn't just be a setback for a company, it would shatter Europe's ambition to build a world-class commercial aircraft industry. The narrow-body market was the key to survival. Single-aisle jets were the workhorses of airlines everywhere, flying countless daily routes between cities. They were cheaper to operate than wide-bodies, carried passengers on high-frequency routes, and represented a massive chunk of airline spending. If Airbus couldn't challenge Boeing here, it would never become a serious player. Airbus's leadership knew this. By 1981, they faced a critical decision. Should they simply imitate the successful Boeing 737 or take a gamble on building something completely different? Many thought copying Boeing's formula would be the safer option. After all, airlines already loved the 737. A similar design might stand a chance of earning orders. But others within Airbus argued that mimicking Boeing wouldn't be enough. To really break Boeing's monopoly, they needed to do more than just build a good plane. They needed to change the game entirely. That bold vision won out. Airbus decided it wouldn't build just another narrow-body jet. They wanted something revolutionary, a plane that could cut fuel costs, make flying safer, and give airlines a reason to rethink everything they knew about short-haul flying. Engineers started sketching designs for an aircraft with groundbreaking technologies, computerized flight controls instead of old-fashioned cables, and a modern glass cockpit with digital screens instead of dozens of outdated dials. It was a massive risk. If it worked, Airbus could transform itself from a struggling newcomer into a real contender. But if it failed, the result would be catastrophic, not just for Airbus, but for thousands of workers, the European governments that supported the company, and the dream of a European aerospace industry that could compete with the US. The A320 project officially launched in 1984, and from day one, Airbus made it clear, this wouldn't be just another airplane. They were going all in on innovation because they knew matching Boeing wasn't enough. They had to leap ahead. Their most radical idea? Fly-by-wire controls. Before this, commercial jets relied entirely on mechanical linkages. Pilots' movements were physically transmitted by thick cables, rods, and pulleys all the way to the control surfaces on the wings and tail. It was a system that worked, but added weight, complexity, and limited what pilots and engineers could do. Fly-by-wire flipped that old model on its head. In the A320, pilots' inputs were turned into electronic signals, which were instantly sent to flight control computers. These computers then moved the ailerons, elevators, and rudder. Not only did this save weight by eliminating most mechanical parts, but it let Airbus do something truly game-changing: add flight envelope protections. The plane's computers could prevent pilots from pushing it beyond safe limits, like stalling the aircraft or banking too steeply. It meant safer flying, even if a pilot made a mistake in stressful moments. But this innovation came with controversy. Many pilots were skeptical. Could they really trust a computer with their lives? Would they lose control if electronics failed? Airbus's engineers reassured them with layers of redundancy. The A320 had multiple independent computers and backup systems so that if one failed, others would instantly take over. Over time, pilots came to appreciate the safety and ease that fly-by-wire offered. Alongside fly-by-wire, Airbus also made a bold choice in the cockpit: a side-stick controller. Gone was the big central yoke taking up space in front of pilots' chests, replaced by a small joystick at each pilot's side. It gave pilots more legroom, a clearer view of their instruments, and reduced physical strain during long flights. Critics questioned how pilots would coordinate if they couldn't see each other's controls move, but Airbus pointed out that electronic signals were faster and more precise than any mechanical linkage could ever be. To top it all off, Airbus introduced the glass cockpit. Instead of dozens of tiny round dials and analog gauges cluttering the instrument panel, the A320 featured large color digital displays. These screens could present clear, consolidated information, letting pilots grasp the plane's status at a glance. They could switch between views depending on the flight phase, cutting down confusion and reaction time in emergencies. For pilots used to old-fashioned cockpits, it was like stepping into the future. Together, these innovations made the A320 radically different from anything the world had seen. The question now was whether airlines and pilots would embrace these changes or reject them as too risky. In February 1987, after years of development and countless hours of testing on the ground, the very first Airbus A320 emerged from the hangar in Toll House. All eyes were on it. This sleek, single-aisle jet carried the hopes of Airbus, European industry, and every worker who'd contributed to its creation. On February 22nd, the A320 took its maiden flight, climbing into the skies with a small crew and the world watching closely. Just a few months later, an A320 crashed during a demonstration flight in France. The crash, later determined to be caused by pilot error during a low-speed flyover, raised questions about the aircraft's new fly-by-wire system, but investigations cleared Airbus of any technical fault. This was the first commercial plane entirely dependent on fly-by-wire. A single serious malfunction could doom the entire program, but the A320 flew flawlessly. Engineers and pilots praised its handling and the stability of its electronics system. Confidence grew quickly within Airbus and among curious airlines waiting to see if the risk would pay off. By April 1988, Air France became the first airline to launch commercial service with the A320. From the very first flights, pilots were impressed. They loved how smoothly the A320 responded, especially in different weather. The side stick felt intuitive, and pilots noted they had better control precision than they'd ever experienced. Meanwhile, passengers enjoyed a quieter, smoother ride, and airlines immediately saw the savings. The A320's lighter, more efficient design cut fuel consumption significantly, a huge benefit as oil prices fluctuated. As airlines began to share their positive experiences, orders started rolling in. Lufthansa quickly signed up, followed by British Airways and other major European carriers. Soon, even American airlines like United placed big orders, breaking Airbus into Boeing's home market. It was the beginning of a true rivalry that would reshape aviation. Another breakthrough that helped the A320 shine was its common type rating. Airbus designed the A320 family, including the shorter A318 and longer A321, so pilots trained on one could fly the others with only minimal extra training. Airlines loved this flexibility. They could match different A320 variants to changing route demands without retraining pilots, saving millions of dollars while maintaining efficiency. It was an advantage Boeing couldn't match with its 737 lineup at the time. As deliveries ramped up in the late 80s and early 90s, word spread fast. The A320 wasn't just new, it was reliable and profitable. It changed how airlines thought about pilot training, fleet planning, and cockpit design. And it proved that Airbus wasn't just a European experiment. It was now a serious, permanent competitor in the world of commercial aviation. The launch of the A320 was only the beginning. After proving they could build a jet that not only competed with Boeing but surpassed it in many ways, Airbus wasn't going to stop there. The company's next move was to turn a single successful model into an entire family of aircraft, a strategy that would redefine how airlines thought about fleet planning. First came the A321, officially entering service in 1994. It was a stretched version of the A320, adding about 22 feet to the fuselage. This gave airlines seating for 185 passengers in a typical two-class layout, compared to the A320's 150 seats. For busy routes between major cities, the A321 was perfect. Airlines could carry more passengers without stepping up to a larger, more expensive widebody, keeping costs low while boosting revenue on high-demand routes. This simple stretch turned the A320 into a flexible workhorse for airlines worldwide. Then, in 1995, Airbus introduced the A319. At 12 feet shorter than the A320, it carried around 120 to 130 passengers, making it ideal for thinner routes where there weren't enough travelers to fill a larger plane. Airlines loved the 319's economics. It had the same cockpit, same systems, and same training requirements as the A320 and 321. This meant their pilots could switch between models without extensive retraining, which saved airlines millions of dollars. Maintenance crews also benefited from the shared parts and systems. Whether an airline needed a smaller jet for regional flights or a larger one for busy trunk routes, the A320 family had them covered. In 2003, Airbus tried to go even smaller with the A318, a mini version seating just 100 passengers. Unfortunately, its economics couldn't match its siblings. Airlines found it hard to make money with so few seats, especially when operating costs were so similar to the larger A319 and A320. Sales lagged, and only 80 A318s were ever delivered. But Airbus's broader strategy still worked beautifully. The A318's struggle didn't slow the family's overall success. The real breakthrough came in 2010 with the A320neo program. Neo stood for New Engine Option, and it was exactly that. Airbus offered airlines a choice between two new ultra-efficient engines, the Pratt & Whitney PW1100G geared turbofan and the CFM LEAP 1A. Both engines promised 15 to 20% lower fuel burn compared to the original A320 engines. This was a massive leap in efficiency, especially as oil prices had spiked in the late 2000s and early 2010s, eating into airline profits. But it wasn't just about lower fuel bills. The new engines were quieter, significantly reducing noise pollution around airports, a growing concern as cities expanded closer to airports worldwide. The A320neo also incorporated aerodynamic improvements, including new larger sharklet wingtip devices that added 4% more fuel savings by reducing drag. The market response was extraordinary. Within months of the A320neo's announcement, orders soared. Airlines loved the idea of a jet offering double-digit fuel savings without the cost and complexity of an all-new design. Boeing scrambled to respond, but their answer, the 737 MAX, arrived later and faced serious challenges, leaving Airbus with a commanding lead in orders and deliveries. Over the next decade, airlines ordered thousands of A320neos, cementing Airbus's dominance in the narrow-body market. The success didn't end there. In 2015, Airbus pushed the boundaries of narrow-body jets with the A321LR, LR for long range. By adding extra fuel tanks, the 321LR could fly up to 4,000 nautical miles non-stop, opening new possibilities for airlines to connect secondary cities across the Atlantic and beyond without the need for bigger, costlier wide-body planes. The A321LR quickly found fans among airlines looking to tap into long, thin routes, markets too small for a 787 or A330 but perfect for a single-aisle jet. Then, in 2019, Airbus revealed the A321XLR, extra long range, at the Paris Air Show. The XLR extended range even further, to 4,700 nautical miles, thanks to a new integrated rear center tank that added fuel capacity without sacrificing cargo space. Suddenly, routes like New York to Rome or Boston to Athens became viable with a narrow-body jet, reshaping the economics of long-haul flying once again. This ability to continually adapt and stretch the A320 platform gave airlines unprecedented flexibility. From the smallest A319 to the longest-range A321XLR, they could serve almost any market with a family of jets sharing the same cockpit, same maintenance processes, and the same efficient operations. It was the A320 family's greatest strength, and a major reason why Airbus rose to become Boeing's equal. Looking back, it's hard to overstate what the A320 meant for Airbus, and for aviation as a whole. When the A320 first entered service in 1988, Airbus was still a scrappy underdog. Boeing's dominance felt unshakable, and many doubted whether a European consortium could truly compete in the cutthroat world of commercial jets, but the A320 shattered those doubts. By proving that radical innovation, like fly-by-wire controls and a digital cockpit, could not only work but thrive in commercial service, Airbus forced the entire industry to rethink what was possible. Within a few short years, the A320 family was winning orders from airlines all over the world, including Boeing's home market in North America. The financial success of the A320 was transformative for Airbus. The steady profits from thousands of A320 deliveries gave Airbus the resources to develop other aircraft, the A330 widebody, the long-range A340, and eventually the A350, which directly challenged Boeing's 787 Dreamliner. Even the ambitious double-decker A380, a technological marvel despite limited sales, was made possible because of the financial cushion the A320 provided. As of 2025, Airbus has delivered over 12,000 A320 family aircraft, with more than 19,000 orders, making it the best-selling commercial jet family in history, overtaking even Boeing's legendary 737. Fly-by-wire, once viewed as a gamble, is now standard on every modern airliner, including Boeing's own newer models like the 777 and 787. Airbus's common cockpit philosophy, first perfected with the A320, now extends across its lineup from the A220 regional jet all the way up to the A350, allowing pilots to switch between aircraft with minimal additional training. For passengers, the A320 family changed flying in ways that are easy to overlook today. Quieter cabins and smoother flights became standard. airlines could offer more point-to-point routes with right-sized planes, reducing the need for time-consuming connections at busy hubs. By optimizing fuel burn, the A320 also helped keep ticket prices lower, making air travel more accessible to millions of people around the globe. But the A320's biggest legacy is the lesson it taught the entire industry: bold innovation can pay off. When Airbus committed to fly-by-wire, digital cockpits, and an all-new approach to pilot training, many thought they were reckless. Instead, those choices laid the groundwork for an era of safer, more efficient, and more flexible flying. It showed that success in aviation doesn't come from simply playing it safe, it comes from pushing boundaries. As Airbus works on hydrogen-powered concept, electric hybrids, and other next-gen aircraft, the spirit of the A320 lives on. The team behind those future planes still draws lessons from what they learned in the 80s and 90s, knowing that the risk Airbus took in the A320 wasn't just about survival, it was about redefining the future of aviation. The Airbus A320 may have changed everything for Airbus, but the story of single-aisle jets is far from over. As airlines look to replace aging fleets over the next 2 decades, both Airbus and Boeing know the next breakthrough aircraft could decide who dominates the skies well into the 2050s. The A320's phenomenal success, with over 10,000 delivered and thousands more on order, has given Airbus a powerful advantage, but it also raises expectations for what comes next. Boeing, still recovering from the 737 MAX crisis and program delays, is under pressure to regain the confidence of airlines and investors. Boeing's new mid-market airplane, NMA, often called the 797, was supposed to fill the gap left by the retired 757 and 767, but years of hesitation and shifting leadership have stalled its development. Meanwhile, Airbus has taken the opportunity to stretch the A320 family further, with the A321XLR opening new long, thin routes previously flown by Boeing 757s. This move has kept Airbus ahead in a key segment, winning hundreds of orders from airlines eager to fly direct between smaller city pairs. But technology is evolving rapidly. Airlines are demanding better fuel efficiency, lower emissions, and more flexible performance than current designs can offer. Sustainable aviation fuels are only a partial answer. Plane makers know they will need entirely new designs, possibly featuring hybrid electric systems, hydrogen propulsion, or radically improved aerodynamics to meet tough environmental targets and rising passenger demand. Airbus has hinted at its future with the Zero-E concept, a set of hydrogen-powered aircraft studies unveiled in 2020. These proposals include turboprop, turbofan, and blended wing designs, each aiming to enter service in the mid-2030s. But creating a hydrogen infrastructure at airports, redesigning safety systems, and securing airline buy-in are massive challenges. Meanwhile, Boeing's official plans remain vague. Executives have said they're focusing on advanced manufacturing techniques and digital design tools, but there's still no clear commitment to a new aircraft program. This uncertainty creates an opening for Airbus. If the European plane maker can leverage the A320's legacy of innovation to bring a clean-sheet, sustainable narrow-body jet to market first, it could secure its lead for decades. But Boeing is a resilient competitor with deep experience, and it knows that its future depends on a successful replacement for the 737 family. Industry analysts believe airlines will soon face a stark choice: keep buying incrementally improved A320neos and 737 MAXes, or wait for the next generation of radically more efficient jets. As the world demands greener aviation and more direct routes between smaller cities, the next game-changing aircraft will likely be a single-aisle workhorse capable of slashing emissions while maintaining range and economics. The battle for the skies that the A320 started isn't ending, it's entering its most exciting chapter yet. The next jet to capture airlines' trust could redefine the industry once more, just as the A320 did back in 1988. Decades after its first flight, the Airbus A320 is still shaping the skies. What started as a desperate gamble turned into one of the most successful aircraft stories in history. Fly-by-wire tech, a digital cockpit, unmatched efficiency, all of it became the blueprint for the future. And Airbus? It didn't just survive, it soared. The A320 wasn't just a jet, it was a turning point. This one bold plane flipped Airbus from a shaky European newcomer into a true aviation giant. It just goes to show, sometimes one jet can change everything.